headed to my friends' houses on the weekends. Because going to a friend's house meant leaving behind my beloved books and my paintbrushes and my flute, my journal for the night. For a night filled with, so what do you want to do? These friends who I spent all day with 5 out of 7 days of the week wanted to spend those remaining 2 days together too. And that was great for them if that made them happy. But what I didn't understand was that everyone made it seem wrong for me to want to do what made me happy. I couldn't just say that I wanted to spend Friday night in my room painting. I had to lie that my mom didn't want me going out that evening, or I'd come down with something really nasty, or I was grounded. I used to ground myself pretty frequently. There's this stigma attached to solitude that I still don't get. My parents were always pushing me to be more social. They were worried something was wrong with me. On my 13th birthday, they took matters into their own hands and arranged a surprise sleepover birthday party for me. My friends and I stayed up late, so late, that at a certain point I couldn't socialize anymore. I tucked into my sleeping bag, shut my eyes, and pretended to sleep. I spent about 2 hours like that, silently willing my friends to stop talking and to just go to sleep. Suddenly, I heard one of them say my name. Do you think Krista will make it in high school? She's just so shy. I was stunned. And I lay there, silently crying, as my friends discussed my defectiveness. I didn't think I was shy. I know now that shyness is about fear of social judgment. A shy person would be scared to, say, give a filmed presentation in a crowded library. That isn't me. Introversion, on the other hand, is about responding negatively to too much stimulation. Introverts shut down, or even in my case, pretend to fall asleep when they've had too much stimulation. Introverts are energized by quiet space, introspection, and deep relationships, and are exhausted by excessive and social interactions. Extroverts, on the other hand, are energized by social interaction and external stimulation and tend to be bored or restless by themselves. The two respond differently to the same social interactions because their brains are wired differently. While extroverts get energized when the chemical dopamine, which provides motivation to seek external rewards, is released in the brain, introverts become depleted. Instead, introverts become energized when a different neurotransmitter, which makes us turn inward and powers our abilities to think deeply, reflect, and focus intensely on one thing at a time, is released in the brain. A psychologist named Stephen A. Diamond says, extroversion and introversion are two extreme poles on a continuum which we all occupy. Everyone falls somewhere along the spectrum, and reportedly, 26 to 50% of people are introverted. 5 out of 11, or 45.5% of our own class identify as introverts. But the sad truth is that society favors one half of the population over the other. They favor extroverts over introverts, something that I've been trying to come to terms with ever since I was a little girl told that spending too much time alone was wrong. To answer my friend's question, yes, I did make it in high school, but it wasn't easy, because the modern classroom of interactive learning approaches, groupthink exercises, group projects in every subject, and pod seating is not designed for introverts. Introverts take longer to process information. My thoughts are almost like concrete things because they're so formulated and clear on the inside before I let them out. My thoughts take time, quiet, and contemplation. I go into a different inner world when I'm really focused. The classroom doesn't leave time for that sort of contemplation. In fact, teachers tend to pick on those students who seem to be in another world. They tend to draw introverted students out. There is so much pressure for students to offer ideas on the fly in class. When I was really young, my teachers used to praise me for being able to work quietly on my own. But by 6th grade, my teachers were calling home to report to my parents that I was too quiet in class. Again, introversion was made into a defection. My teachers tried different learning techniques to try and cure introverts of our silence disease. We had the popsicle stick method, the apples method, all designed to force quiet students to speak up a certain amount of times each class. The problem with forcing introverts to speak up in class is that they haven't had time to formulate their answers. It's like forcing individuals to write with their non-dominant hand. They'll produce sloppy results that don't reflect their best work. These types of problems didn't end for me in middle school or even high school. No, they followed me right to college. If my friends were to ask me now if I'm okay in school, I'd tell them that I'm getting by, because I find compromises, ways to participate in our collaborative learning culture while still giving myself time to be alone and reboot. This study spot is one of those compromises. I get to be on the social first floor of Frost with a hum of activity surrounding me, part of it, but separate, and still able to do my own thing in the corner. Sometimes, though, Amherst College makes it really difficult to be an introvert in the classroom. At the beginning of freshman year, my sociology professor announced that participation is a major part of a major grade in her class, and that after every class, she'd go down the list of names and put a check next to everyone who participated enough that day. If you aren't good at speaking up in class, she told us, you're not the only one. Don't worry. I used to be terrible at it. You just have to make an effort to do it whenever possible. Go against your instinct and force yourself to think out loud, and you will improve. The research shows that forcing individuals to go against their nature and be something they're not is mentally depleting. When introverts act as extroverts without taking time alone to reboot, they become irritated and exhausted, and they can't function properly. Our society raises introverts to be self-negators. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to different parties and functions instead of staying in and doing what I want to do, for no other reason than being conditioned to think that this is the right thing for me to do. In my psychology class this semester, a professor explained her participation policy early on in the year too. She told us, if you're having an off day and find it hard to contribute to class discussion, shoot me an email explaining what was wrong, so I don't deduct participation points. Well, what's wrong is that I'm an introverted learner, and taking this 2.5-hour interactive seminar was a big push for me, and asking me to pretend to be an extrovert during it is a double push. I find it insulting that as a student who has made it to Amherst College, I still have to make excuses for the way that I learned best. I propose that teachers create a learning environment in which introverts and extroverts are equally catered to, supported, and valued. This culture of nonstop collaboration and group work needs to be transformed into a mixture of collaborative and independent work. The pace of the classroom needs to be slowed down. Silences should be encouraged, and students should be given a no-penalty alternative to speaking up in class, such as posting thoughts later on an online forum. All students should be taught to strive for quality class participation, not quantity. So how about we stop catering to one half of the population and stop forcing the other half to compromise who they are? Because as wonderful as this secret study spot amidst our nonstop collaborative society is, and as wonderful as being forced outside your comfort zone by a surprise birthday party or a popsicle stick is, every once in a while, it's far better to let introverted students enter into their inner worlds, where they are most creative, think most deeply, and feel most passionately. How about instead of teachers giving their students checks for speaking up every day in class, they give themselves checks every day for creating an environment in which introverts and extroverts can learn together, an environment in which little boys and girls don't have to make excuses or compromises for the way that they are, which is pretty wonderful. Thanks for the